Okay, good morning, everyone, once again. It's another class, front-end development beginner. And today we're going to be, it's not like we are going to be doing it, but we will guide ourselves because definitely what you're seeing on my screen is a task given, and it is not just a class work, it is a promotional task. So it is not expected that we have it in class or we solve it in class. So what I want to do is just to guide us, to give us some hints on how to solve the task, right? At this stage of JavaScript, it is left to us to make research, like a lot of research. You guys have to know how to make a lot of research on our own. We've already talked about DOM, we've already talked about variables, we've talked about arrays, talked about objects, and we've talked about um, keys, values, map method, right? We've talked about an on-click event. So I want to believe that we should be able to solve that problem on our own. But then, sometimes it could be really, really messy or really confusing. So, and there are some things you guys may not know or you don't know how to go about it, which is what we are going to explain to ourselves today. I'm not expecting this class to last for up to 2 hours at all. But then we're just going to we'll explain to ourselves and see what we can do about it. I also want to there's something I was supposed to like explain to you guys also, which I believe is going to be very useful here. But if we are doing this task, if you're solving this, there's a possibility that we're going to like jam it and come across it. But if we cannot, maybe the next class is going to be very, very, yeah, we're going to talk about it in the next class, definitely. But my fear now is we are kind of very behind in JavaScript. We are very, very behind. We only have just one more stage to go, just one more stage before our project stage. And then during the project, we don't really have more classes. So that's just my fear. And that one more stage, we're having a promotional stage now next week. And then that means we have 4 classes left to handle JavaScript. That's just basically how it is. About 4 classes, or let's say, yeah, about 4 or 6 classes, yeah. So I want us to just try as much as possible on our own to make research on some stuff that we have actually like skipped. We have skipped a lot of things. We have skipped toggle dot add event listener. We have skipped dot add class, dot remove class, and a lot of stuff like that. So if you guys can just go online and make research on all of those things, then it's going to be really, really helpful because we can't like just take everything. It's not possible. If we want to say let's stay on variable or DOM, we're going to just remain there for the rest of the cohorts. So that's just what I'm trying to say. And then the last task is really simple, really, really simple. It's just basically the idea is you are given a project or you're a developer, fine, and then someone approaches you that, okay, sir, I want to set question or quiz for my primary school student, or let's say nursery school student. Sorry, pupils, right? So, and then the structure of the quiz, this is how I want it. I want to have, fine, I'll have a header, which is quiz, right? And then under it, I'll have the questions. I'll have question one, and then I'll have options. I'll have question one more like, what is your name? Then I'll have options under it, which will be more like, my name is this, my name is that, my name is this, and all of that. And then the person gets to like select from the name. So after that, that's question one. After the user clicks or the people click on the answer or click on the choice of their own answer, right? Then they get to see their selection somewhere. And then they get to see their score because the selection is going to be compared with the actual answer. So if it is correct, there will be a display of correct. If it is wrong, there will be a display of wrong. And then to the next one, and then to the next question, to the next question, to the next question. And after everything, after the student have been able to select all the answers, then we get their final result and show it to them. More like, let's say 10 questions, each question carries 10 marks, right? And then that will be over 100. So if the student got like 5 questions correctly, that will be 50 over 100. So we'll have the final result at the end of it. Although there are still some little stuff we may not be able to fix right now, but then at least the idea for this task is to be able to get those things ready, fix, or let's say build a simple quiz app, even if there'll still be a lot of bugs, right? But then let's just see how we can fix it and then move to the next thing. So we are going to start. I wish we can follow, but then since I don't want us to, I'm not expecting us to copy my own layout. I'll just assume a layout. I'll just assume a layout or just come up with a layout. But by layout, I mean the UI, how I want the UI to look like. So, but then I will expect us to just do something from our own end, decide your own layout, how you want your quiz app to look like. So that's it. All right. Now, the first thing, as you already know, is the first thing we have to do, okay, let's list out what we want to do first inside our JavaScript file. So we want to build a quiz app, and then we are going to have a data of all the questions, So create a dummy data. Dummy data is a data that.
Sorry to disturb you. Could you zoom so we can see it clearly?
Yeah, I'm doing that. Thank you for the reminder. All right. Is this better? Okay, so create a dummy data. By dummy data, I mean data that you can just use. Is a dummy data, you can just use it for the purpose of this project. Data naturally is gotten from the backend of an API. So when you are creating that data locally here, they call it a dummy data. So create a dummy data representing the questions, options, and answer. So that's the first thing. And after doing that, what next do? We create the HTML syntax to display the questions, the data. That's second one. Then thirdly is we map through the data to display each on the web page, right? Then after mapping, what do? Add an event listener. Add an event listener to each question, or data options to each data option, so that when the user clicks or when the user selects, so that user can select, an option. Okay, then after that, what do? Display the selected option and then display the correct answer, and then display if correct or wrong, if selection is correct or wrong. Then lastly, sum up the total after the entire selection. Okay, so I want us to follow up to contribute also in this. I know we know some of these things already. They're just very simple. Just little that we do not know. So let's just follow up and contribute. So first thing we want to do now, let's create a dummy data. So to create a dummy data, someone should assume a name for me, like a name for the question, for the quiz. Let's say I need a name.
Start quiz.
Type of name.
Start quiz.
Yeah.
Nah. Another name is a data.
What of quiz?
It's a data.
Data.
How about
So
French
is
quiz?
it what is
French
holding the
quiz.
questions?
The data for the question and data for the quiz, Sha. The data for the quiz.
We
Who's
can
your
call
Can
it
we call it
question.
French quiz?
Okay,
Question bank.
let's see question. Let's see suggestions on the chat. Let me just so I can pick one. And we need a very accurate name.
So let's go with questions. Then the property and key, we use questions and questions.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't suggest the question. No.
That we
Quiz
can go with question
operation,
bank.
quiz data, question bank. No, we cannot go with question bank. Okay, quiz data. I think I'll go with quiz data. There's a reason why we can't go with question bank and anything that has to do with questions. So, but then I can go with this quiz data. All right, that's fine. Quiz data equals to an array. That's the first thing. Why are we going with quiz data? Because quiz, this particular data is what we are going to work with entirely. And then it's going to contain both the question, the option, and the answers itself. So each of the objects will contain the question, the answer, and then the option. So we cannot call it a question bank or question anything. Do you understand? Because each of the objects still contains answers. So we can just say the quiz data and then create the first object to represent the first question. So we can now say question. Question is just one. So that one can be just one. So we give the question here. So what should this be? Should it be current affairs? Should it be sports? Should it be education? Should it be quantitative?
Sports is easier.
Sport is
Tech
easier.
related.
Tech
Yeah,
related.
sports is
Okay,
easier.
let's go with tech
Email it
related.
with
Someone
HTML.
said tech related. Someone said tech related. Now let's do this first question. Tech related. The first question, please.
What is
Please, let's.
HTML?
No, the option will be too long. I need something that the answer will be very
That-
short.
So we can just go for Lorem since it's just like the main.
Oh, so we should go for Lorem.
Yes. Can just use it to like get fast.
No. No.
I try to just save time. Just Lorem.
Yeah, I get. Let's just do this. Which property, CSS property, is used to display items on a row? All right, so that's the question. And then we now have answer options. So we have options, but in this case, our option is going to be what? It's going to be an array because option is mod. So we have the first one. The first string is the first answer. The second string is the second answer, and the third string is the third answer. So come in. Let's try something like this instead. Okay, so we say the first one, which CSS property is used to display items on a row? Flex. Second one, and flex, or let's say row. Third one, flex direction. Then let's say the third one, just three options each.
Colon.
column. Thank you. All right. So after that, put your comma, then answer. What is the answer to this question? Who can tell me the answer to this
Flex.
question? Flex.
One.
Although it depends, yeah. So, well, let's go. So then the last one is going to be you have question, option, and answer. Okay, I think that's all. So then, comma, the second one, I'll just create three, just three questions that we can work with that. So another question could be, what's
Popular version control.
popular
Version
version?
control used by developers.
Oh, yeah, version control used by developers. What is the popular version control used by developers? So we can say VS Code. We say Git. What's the answer? Git.
Git.
Okay. So we
GitHub.
say Git or good. So the answer
See,
should be
Git.
Git. Oh, cool. All right. The last question. Last question. Can we imagine? So nobody no question. Do we have any teacher here?
Which company developed the Android operating system?
What is the main case using
Or
JavaScript?
founder of Microsoft? Anyone?
Well, let me hear from Joseph. What's Gospel saying?
What is the main case used in JavaScript?
Main case using JavaScript. That question depends. Honestly, that question depends. So if I should say the main case is this, it's very, very not true. It's very not true because in some cases the cases may differ. So let's say something else.
Or you can
Oh,
say
my-
what case is used for constant in JavaScript?
What keyword is used for a what is a constant? A non-reassignable or non-editable or
Non-reassignable.
yeah, non-reassignable. Okay. Value in JavaScript. So we have var, we have let's, and we have const. Thank you. Okay. All right. So the answer should be okay. Donatus.
Constant.
Okay, sir. Like that option, we can still use array of objects now, then passing the text and a boolean, true or false, something like that for each of the answers given.
That would just be too far, but okay, something like this, that would be too far actually. You can have something like this, if I understand what you're saying. This will be right, true. Is that what you're saying? Var. Is this what you're saying?
We just put a text, then we give the answer. Then after the answer, we put correct, true, or if it's false, we put false there.
Oh, okay. Something like this, text.
Yes.
Let's that one long ago. Let's then answer right, true.
No, just put yes, answer true or false, yes, something like that.
Answer true or false. Okay, this is cool, but
then we move this other object, the answer.
Inside, right? Okay, let's go with this one, the previous one. Okay. Then maybe we can see what we can. This is actually very cool also. The concerning, let's say, because backend people, they can be very crazy sometimes. They will want to complicate it all easy. as a front-end developer, you may want to use this one just directly to make everything easy. But as a back-end person, they may want to come as this. So how would you fix this one? Well, let's just go with the previous one, and then can see how we can use this later.
Sir,
Okay. Yeah.
must we use strings? Can't we use the number since it's an array?
You mean the answer?
Yes.
Okay, we should just use like options, then the number, right?
For the last one, just put 3. No, 2. So then 1.
Oh, 1, 2, 3.
Instead of the string,
Instead of the string.
because we might get to write a lot.
Okay, let's do that. Although it's still the same thing. So let me see what you're saying. Say this is last one, right? So let's just get the last one. Should we use 3 or we should use option dot length minus 1? Or let's just use 3. Is it what you're saying?
Yes. No,
Is
that's
this what you're
2.
saying? Okay, this is 2. Yeah, you're right. True. So what I'm saying is still very the same thing. I understand that we are trying to use the best practice and all of that, but then this will still return. I'm sure some persons will be some persons will be like, what are these people saying now? You guys are complicated issues. But it's still the same thing. It's still the same thing. Option 1. Sorry,
This one
0.
don't go foul. They don't make research like mad.
So what we are trying to do here is, this option is an array. Okay, so and then the answer here is the answer for this question is flex. And we already know that for us to access this flex, it's just option 0 using the bracket notation. So the same thing for this one, the answer is git. While here the answer is what? Is const. So read one.
I just ask that, so why using this option? That is, we're technically saying that the answer object, the value of the answer key,
Yes.
array of option.
Exactly. Like it's just more like we picking our answer from these options instead of us writing it out as a string. Do you understand?
Okay.
So it's more like we just picking, since our answer is inside the option, and then option is an array. So we are just picking our answer from the option. So that's just, and all of these things are dummy data. Like I said, we decide it ourselves. In some cases, we don't even want to decide like that. But then for every question, there has to be an answer, which is decided by the person that created the question. So which is what we did here.
Okay.
All
But
right.
it
So
doesn't
now
matter if they're using APIs.
at all, however you want to do it, just get your answer. But one thing is you have to ensure that your answer is the same thing as what is inside your string. Because if your answer is flex and then you have your string as you have this one as this, then there will be a problem. Because this is flex F capital and then F small letter. Or you mistakenly added S, so this will be a problem. Because you have to still compare this answer to the option then to give us what we want. So I think that's basically why gospel suggests we go for this, because with this we don't even need to care. We don't need to bother about is the answer correct or is it tally or whatever. All right, that's that. Now let's go to the second one. So let's close this out. We're good. Create the HTML syntax. Is this correct? No. The HTML syntax to display the data. So what are we trying to display now? Let's assume I want to have on my screen, I want to have the question by the side and then the answer by the other side. That's what I want to have. Okay, so how do I do that? I'll have a row first. Let me create a row. Let me create a data. Let me just create a data container. And after this, I want to have my question by the left on a row, on a column, and then the answer to it by the right. So I'm going to have a row. Should I have a row? Or let's just have a card here. Doesn't need to be a row. Okay. So inside the data, I will say H1, simple quiz app. Okay. And then inside my I want to have columns of questions. So I'll say dot row and then I'll have left and then I'll have right. I'll show us what I'm trying to do here. So here we have a card. So each card, that means the card that will contain all of our data. This card will contain all data. I can even say data view instead, right? And then inside the data view, we're going to have a row of, let me show us, let's put something here. Let's just put H1 left and then H1 right. So this left should take column 6, and then this should take column 6. Like I said, you can decide however you want your UI to look like. This is where we are going to have the questions. And options. While here we're going to have answers and status. All right, so now let's check. Let's load this in server. Okay, so let me give a background. This column we have VG primary, and then here we have VG info. And let's save it. All right, fine. So okay, just a minute. Let me class text center. All right, you can unmute yourself and talk.
Okay, sir. I was thinking, why don't
Okay.
the answers and status, come later after the quiz? Because if you're writing the quiz and then you're seeing your answer or no, not actually the answer, how many you have gotten so far?
You can change it.
It's not actually,
You can change it. Yeah, it is not. But can we do that? That's the question. Can we?
I think we can just put just the questions, and then under the questions we have the options, and then maybe after the whole thing you can just maybe link you to another page where you get your scores and all that.
No, we can't. I know maybe you have done a lot of research and then you've gotten to all of this level. Well, I'm considering we have about 50%, and then we all have to be on the same page. So if we are saying we want to go to that extent now, fine, it's a good thing, but then it's going to get messy and people will not be able to fix it themselves. So it's best to just pick it one after the other. All right. So after this one, maybe the next one is going to be like that, or the next one is even going to be an API that will require us to view a different page based on the data that we clicked on. So, but for now, let's just see how we can make it work first before we start thinking of how to make it better. Do you understand? Because
okay,
people start swearing now that they are going too far and all of that. Well, so let's just take it one step at a time. Okay. All right. So this is the idea. We're going to have our questions here, and then when a question is being selected here, the question is going to be displayed and the options. So when a question is being selected, we're going to have our answer here, and we're going to have the correct answer, and then we're going to have the status, if it is correct or if it is wrong. Okay. So I understand that when the user selects and the question comes out, they can still go back and reselect, which we are not really worried for now. All we want to do is how to make the quiz app work first. Then after that, you can now start looking for a way to restrict user from changing their option when they see the answer. So now we have this. Let's remove this. And then let's remove this. So what do we need? How is the question going to be? So we are going to say select. We're going to use select, right? So let's say P first, and then we have this place. We are going to have our question. So we say class. Let's give it question, and then let's give it style, font size should be, let's say, 20 pixel. All right, that's the question. And then under the question, you are going to have a select, right? Which inside the select, you're going to have options, right? And then our option should take a value also. So here we can say the first option should be select an answer, right? So we are going to disable it, disable this one, disabled, so that they don't get to like be able to select it. All right, so yeah, that's it. Let's save and see what we have for now. Okay, so we have our question. Our question is going to show here, and they're going to have our answers here, and the user can actually come and click. What I have inside the question in our task is for us to use a radio button, which I tend to realize that we may not be able to fix that. Someone asked me, and I told the person radio, but then for us to use a radio, we are going to go a long way. We're going to use some other stuff that we may not need to know right now. Do I see any hand up? I thought I saw someone raise their hand. Okay, so, but then I decided to just come up with, let's just, instead of that, I may have to edit the task also to remove the radio button so that we can go with ordinary select and options. All right, so select an answer. Okay. What am I trying to do? What am I trying to do? Okay, hey, I'm just trying to give us the UI first, how it's going to look like. So now let's make this, our option should, or our select class should take a W100 and PY3. Let's see, W100 PY1 instead. That they lost so much. PY2. Okay, I think this is okay. So then I can see the question here and see my options here, and I can select the option. Then after that, I get to see my answers here. So I can say here I will have P, let's say selected answer, right? And then under it, I will have correct answer. And then under it, I will have status, which will be correct or wrong, something like that. Correct answer will be the expected answer, while selected answer will be the answer that was selected. So let's give it, okay, that's it. Now let's save. All right, we have, this is the structure that we want. When a question isn't selected, answer isn't selected, the user should see what they want here. Okay, so now after doing this is the structure, right? So I've been able to achieve my UI the way I want it to look like. So now the question is, I'll copy all of this from the row. I'll copy all of this from the row down, right? I'll copy it down. I'll copy everything like this. Then I'll now select my data view, right? I'll select my data view and map through my data to view every of those things inside my data view. So what do? Just cut this one out. Or first, let's go back to our app and see what we've done. I think we've done the first one. The second one, we've been able to create the HTML syntax to display the data, which is this. This is how we want data to be displayed. And then thirdly, map through the data to display each on the web page. Let's select first. Select the data view, right? So now let's do that. Const or let's just use let data view be equals to document.query selector. So what are we selecting? We are selecting our data view. So we are selecting this data view so that when we do data view.innerhtml, it's now going to show us all the data that we want using this row structure. So let's go back to our app.js now. So having done this, we have to map through the data to display each on the web page. But then I would like to create a function for that. So I will say function, I can now say data code or data house or data anything, data house, or let's say quiz app, yep. Okay, so that's a function. Remember to always call your function. This one is just me trying to wrap everything inside a block of code. So it doesn't really, it's not taking any parameter or anything. So we have quiz app. I called it out. If you have any question from what we've done currently, please feel free to raise your hand if you have any question. What we have done is to create the data first. Okay, we don't lie.
Why are we using query selector? And why is there a dot?
Why are you asking me that question? Why are you asking me that question? Okay, let me take the second one. I will attend to that also. I saw two hands. Abire, do you have a question? Okay, it's only read one.
No, I don't have a question. But to answer is why are we using query selector? I know you said that it's easier. It's easier using query selector than using a.
Well, it's not like easier. It's just me, my own choice, right? It's not like it is easier. It's also the same thing. It's the same. If you use ID, you use query selector class. It's the same thing. But for me, I like to use query selector more. It's just the way I have been working all of this one. So and then thank you very much for that answer. Ridwan lie, I guess you missed one of our classes. So and me trying to go back now is not really cool. So here's the thing, data document.query selector is just selecting an element inside our HTML. So, and then because what we are trying to select, we want to select it by the class. So our element, this is the element we want to select, data view. Why are we selecting it? Is so that we can display our data inside this data view, right? So, and then this is the class we are looking at selecting. So a class will always be dot. Remember, in your CSS, you use dot something to call a class. So the same thing as JavaScript, you use dot, the class name, to call the class. So we want to get the element entirely. We say document.query selector, then we pass the class name here, dot data view. So this will give us the entire element that we want to get. So having done this, I won't explain more than that. You can ask anybody, you can meet Abiri or anybody to explain that further for you if you don't really get it. So then after that, I created a function. The function is just to have a block of code. It does not really mean anything. So if you want to do your own, you can decide not to have a function, but it is good to wrap every of your stuff inside a function. It is very, very good so that there won't be error in data declaration or keywords like that. So now having done this, I need to map my data and display it inside this data view that I've actually called. So what do I do is quiz data. I can say let quiz array be equals to quiz data dot map. And then, like I said, we need a representative of each of these quiz data objects. So we say, let's represent the quiz data with a quiz, right? Just quiz like that. And then, why am I using that quiz? Is because for us to be able to read it when you come back, you will know that, okay, this is the quiz we are talking about. So quiz array means all of the quiz in general. Why quiz means each of the quiz. That's it. So now let's try something first. Let's display the question first. Let's display the question first. So let's say return quiz dot what? Dot questions. No option, question. Return quiz dot question, right? And then we'll now say, since we want to display this our quiz array inside our data view, we say data view dot inner HTML will now be equals to what? Quiz array. Remember, this is going to return an array. So we need to remove the comma. If I save it now, let's see what we have. We're going to get a comma. Okay, what's going on? Quiz array, data view, that inner HTML, quiz array, return. Okay, I'm coming. Let me remove this. Let's see. No. Okay. Did I? Data view, yeah. Let's cut this out. Let's save. Quiz.question, quiz data.map, on quiz.question. How am I not getting data view.inner HTML is equals to quiz array? Should be able to get that. Are you guys spotting any error? You spotting any error somewhere? Data view. Okay, let's try this. Let's see.
Sir,
Console. Yes.
what is the quiz
Say what you
array?
want to say. The quiz array is just a variable that we are store. You want to store everything. You want to store it into the quiz array. Just a simple variable.
Okay.
That we are storing our return. Yeah. So I want to console log the data view. See if I have it first. So let me see. Let's try it one by one and see what the problem is. Console. Option is not defined. Oh, where is option? That's AppJS 15.
That's question. Is it correct? This return quiz.question.
Where did you see question? Okay.
34.
Okay. Yes, is actually correct. What I'm seeing is option is not defined. Oh, okay. I think I get. All right. So, Gospel, you've been telling us what is wrong before. So, yeah, this is the problem here. This is the problem. We we can
Yes.
say there's no option.
Yeah,
We don't have option because remember, option is
I was supposed to tell you to
your
remove.
network is breaking.
Can you hear
I did
me?
not get that well. Yeah, I'm with you.
I was supposed to tell you to remove the options. So it's supposed to be answer,
Right.
then semicolon, then 0. Yes.
Answer semicolon is 0. What do you mean by that? Answer semicolon 0. What's this? Can you type what you're saying on the chat?
We already have answer. 0. No. Remove the answer.
This.
Yes, then 0.
Nah. This will be a bug later in the future. This will be a bug. Although, well, let's see if we can go there. Let's do this. So why? Okay, let me explain what happened. So we cannot use this like this. Options is 0 because remember our option is inside an array. It's inside an object, which is also inside an array. So there's no way we can access our option directly from here. It's not going to work. If we want to get this directly, we have to like say quiz data.map, then get the first one, and now get the answer or get the options before we now do this, which is very, very wrong. Like to do that, this is what we can do. Quiz data or quiz data dot map. For us to be able to get that option, so you can see how the thing will take very long. So we now say quiz data dot map, then this one will now be is 0, E is 0. That's to get the first object. We now say dot options, right? So we now pick 0. See, this is how we get this first one. with a map, which is really, really complicated. So we shouldn't go there. So then, okay, it suggested that we do this, is 0, which means later, when we want to access our answer now, we can now use options is 0, which is still going to give us an issue. It's still going to give us an issue. So I would just suggest that we just go by adding our answer directly, right? When we move to the advanced JavaScript to explain, we can do all of those things easily for ourselves. But for now, let's do something simple that will not lose us. All right, so now let's go. I think that's why the stuff is not showing. So let's save it now and then see what we have. Okay, so we have our question. Let me remove this nonsense. This main. Okay, fine. So here we have which CSS property is used to display. So it's used to display. So we have all of the questions, the first question, the second question, and the third questions, right? But then I don't expect this to be on a row. I want it to be on a column. Each of it should be on a column. So what do I do? Okay, there's nothing I can do for now. There's nothing I can do. So this is just to tell us that we're able to access our data inside our UI for now. So, but then this is not what we want to do. We want to display each of the object, the question, and the options. We want to display it inside our UI. So instead of using this quiz.question, we can just return. Remember what we did last week? Return, pass your template literal, and then paste that in that you copied, that structure that I actually did before inside our HTML. So I cut it out and then I'm pasting it here. So that is what I'm going to display on each of the item for each of the item. So having done that, what I need now is I don't want to have this question here, this question. I don't want to have it. I want to have the question from this our data. And remember, we already represented the quiz, each of the objects with quiz. So we can just say, instead of using this question, we just say pass your this, and then you say quiz dot question, right? So that's for the question. And then for the answers, there's other thing you can do on the answers, which I'm going to explain now. Let's save this and see what we have. All right, so we have the question, which CSS property is used to display item on a row? That's the first question. The second one is, what is the popular version control used by developer? And then what keyword is used for a non-reassignable value in JavaScript? So you can see we have been able to get all of these questions, the 3 questions, but then the options are still not there yet because we have not passed the option. So we cannot get the options yet. So what do we do next? First, let's reduce this. The font size is kind of big. So let's see what we have. This is nice. And I'm thinking we should have, I'm thinking we should have, we should make it a list item, or let's just give it, yeah, let me have P. Let's see what will happen. P, then let's pass IDX here. Index. I want to get the index of each of the quiz. So I'll say index, but index will start from 0. So I'll just make it index plus 1. Let's save it first and see what we have. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3. I think I may need to 6, make this what 5, and give this class column 1. Y column 6.
It's not inside the.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right. So now let's see what we have. Fine. We have 0. This is really not nice. Although what we can do is just to flex this one. I think I'll just do it that way instead of this. That's not nice. So remove this. Just copy this out and put it inside this column. Put it inside this column. Right. I want to flex this question and then the data. So I'll carry these two together like this and wrap it together in a div. I won't be explaining these things too much because we've done this already. So div is just a data structure stuff, how you want the HTML to be arranged. And let's not copy me, like I said. So I'll have here class. All right, now let's see what we have. Okay, so we have 0, 1, 2. Yeah. So if you have any question currently now, if you have any question, please feel free to raise your hand. If you have any question, feel free to raise your hand. If you have any question, feel free to raise your hand. Now, before we go to the next thing. Are we all good? Fine, I think we are all good. So if you notice, this our display now, we are having this comma. This comma is
Boss, I
appearing because
lifted my hand up.
Okay, what's your question? Sorry, I didn't see that.
Did you copy? I wanted to know if you copied all the whole structure from the HTML, or you only copied the side on the left.
Okay, this is what I did. Inside this my data view, I created the structure first. What I want to be. I just created one. Remember, I created just one structure. Okay, which started from row to the last thing, which is it. So from row down, then after creating it, I copy out everything. I just cut it out. I just cut out everything. So then I pasted it here, as you can see. So it's everything that I used at entirely. That's because that is how I want my own to look like. Some persons may decide that, okay, I want my question to be at the center, and then I don't want your answers to be showing immediately when the user select an answer. You can say you want your own to show later, like Gospel said, you want your own to show later when you click on something, when you submit. Do you understand? So that is also very fine. You can decide that I want this thing to show when I submit. That means you may need to have your submit button so that, okay, when you select your answer, select, then you click on submit, then you get to see the list of all your correct answer and the ones that are very wrong. You can do that too, but I don't want us to waste much of our time there. If you know you can do it, fine, do that. Chidel, do you want to ask a question? Okay, Ridwanulai, your hand is up. Can you ask a question?
Okay, I wanted to ask that this quiz that is in the map function,
Yeah.
where does it take a parameter from? Is it from the object?
Ridwanulai, you've been missing too much of classes. Were you in the last class?
Yes, on Tuesday. On the last
You've
class.
been missing our class. You've been missing. Okay, I think you said it that you've been going to school and all of that. Yeah, I understand. Okay, fine. I don't want to be repeating myself, but the explanation is, since we are map, do you understand the map?
I understand the map.
Okay, so since we are mapping through quiz data, remember quiz data is an array of data, which is this. So since we are mapping through our quiz data, we want to represent each of these objects. We want to represent each of these objects by a variable. We are representing each of these objects by a variable. So that variable is what we call there as quiz, which means, you know, what map does is it's going to, like, when you say, it's going to like display the first one, it's going to come to the first object, do everything you want it to do. Then after that, when it's done there, it's going to come directly to the second one. Then when it's done there, then it's going to come to the third one. So, but then for that thing to be able to work accurately, you have to represent each of these objects with a variable. So we call it the quiz. So then if you say quiz dot options or quiz dot answer now, is going to return what? Flex, that's the first one. To return git, the second one, and return cons, because each of these is represented with quiz. Okay. Do you understand? And then they are called parameter. This is called a parameter because it's going to be in a parenthesis. Like I said, this is the arrow function. So we have quiz.map. You open your parentheses. That's okay, the whole parenthesis. I didn't explain that because I did not explain it because I believe we know it already. Let's say quiz.map. So this is it. This is what you open first. You open your quiz.map parentheses. Then after that, you now open another parenthesis. So it is here that you decide what you are going to use as the parameter to represent each object. You can say obj. You can say each obj. Anything that you want to use is just a name. Then the second one is the index of each of these objects. So this one could be IDX. It could be I. It could be X. It could be anything. But just have it at the back of your mind that the first thing for every map, the first parameter is always what? The representative of the entire object. While the second parameter is what? The index of each of these objects. Remember, each of the objects have an index of 0, 1, and 2. So that's why. So that's it. So yeah, I want you to just, if you don't understand, just go through the previous video. So now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use the index of each of the objects.
Can I reach out to you privately?
I'm not sure I'll be available. You can reach out to David or Gospel. I'm sorry, I may not be available to attend to it. But you can reach out to Gospel, okay, George, Elijah, or even Stanislaus and Abiri, anybody, so they'll be able to help. All right, so what I did is I'm trying to use the index as my numbering. Remember, index starts from 0, 1, 2. So I'm trying to use the index as my numbering, which is what I did here, is 0, 1, and 2. So, but then index will always start from 0. So I want it to start from 1. So I will just add +1 to this, my index, +1, and then save it. So it's going to start from 1, 2, and 3. So what I'm now saying is here we have comma because our array, this is returning an array. This quiz data is returning an array to quiz array. So because it is an array is always comma separated. It separates its item by comma. So then the comma is also showing here. So how do we remove this? Is by including the join method. At the end of your quiz array like this, you can either include it at the end here, dot join, like this, or if you don't want to go to that extent, you can just come here. Since our quiz array is also the same thing as everything here, our quiz array is the same thing as everything that we have here, you can just say dot join at the end of our quiz array. And then remember to pass a space bar. So we are joining our array with an empty string. If you say join it with dash, then it's going to replace the question, the comma with this dash, save it and see what you have. You see dash here, right? But then we want to join it with what? An empty string. We don't want anything to be there. So we just remove the dash and then give an empty string like this. Then save it and see what you have. Then you have it like this, nothing. So now we need space at the bottom of each of the row. So just come here. Each of your rows should have my, just give my3 and then save. Okay, so let's give py2 also, save. Okay, so I need gap here. I need gap. I've forgotten that gap. Can someone remind me, please? Is this correct? Oh, that's not correct.
Gota, if I'm not mistaken.
Gota.
GX and GY.
GX.
But that thing is not working. I tried it. The last time we were trying to fix it was not working still.
Design this same stuff for
thing.
and now it's not working.
I don't understand. All right, well, let's forget about that. And say, let's give this 5, right? So that's better. And then we can now say justify content between. I don't know if it's going to work. All right. So it worked. So having done that, let's change the color. This color is just looking like PG.
Sorry, can we hear me too? Maybe because we want to-
George, Alpha, we cannot hear you. We cannot hear you.
While we are waiting for CP to come, if anybody have a question, they can ask so that our bosses here can answer.
All right, so I'm very sorry for that break. So what I was saying is, yeah, we have our option. I don't know if you guys got me to this point. So I said we have an option, right? And then we want to display each of these options because our option is an array. So we want to display the first one, the second one, and the third one. And it is known that each of these options are 3. Each of the options are 3. So we can now say option value, then quiz.options, because our quiz represents each of these objects. So we now say quiz.options to get this one. And then because our option is an array, we now say quiz.options is 0 to get the first item in the options. Then we do the same thing for the second one, quiz.option1, quiz.option2. So now let's save it and then let's see what we have. We're going to see all the questions there. The first one is line 40. That one is disabled. It's disabled. That one is to select, and just to tell you that, okay, you have to select an answer here. So now if I should click on it now, I click on this one, right? I click on this one. Come in, select disable. All right, so I can now click on this like this, then I can just choose to choose the answer that I want. But then in this case, this thing that I did is not really nice, because what if I have another option? Let's say one of these questions has about 5 options, right? So that means I'll have to, like, what do I do? Will I have to do this for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? This will throw error for the ones that does not have about 5. So the only thing I can do is to map through this option also. That's what I can do. I can just map through this option also. How do I do that? Cut this thing out first. Cut everything out. And then we want to map, right? So we say, what are we mapping through? We say quiz dot map. Sorry, quiz dot option dot map, because you know you can always map an array. An option is an array. So quiz dot options dot map, right? We can now say, what are we representing each of the items inside the option as? Just represent it with option. And then we say return. What are we returning? Return option. Let me just copy this. Return option. Option like this. And then this should be, tell me, there's a mistake. This should be options. What's going on? Hello, are we together? I hope my network is still here. Are we still together? Please, if you are together, just let me see your hand up, please. Let me be sure we are still together, please. Okay. Thank you. All right. So basically, what I'm trying to do here, is after mapping through, we'll be able to map through our quiz data. And remember, our quiz data has the question itself, which we've done here, line 37. We've displayed our quiz.question. And then under it, we want to display our options.
Yes, sir.
But because our option is also is an array. Our option is an array. So that's why we have to map through the options also. We are going to map through the options also to be able to display each of these items. And remember, our options is going to be inside the select. The select elements, that's where we have our options. So what I did was, since we want to display our options, right? So we just do this. Inside our option, what we are supposed to have, normally we're supposed to have this here like this, options or quiz.option. This is what we're supposed to have, quiz.options. But because this is an array, we cannot just have it like this because it's an array. We cannot just have it. We want to display each of the items one after the other. So we have to map it also, dot map, right? And then remember, you have to represent each of the item with a variable or a parameter. We call it option. And then we have our arrow function. And then we have this. Then we say return. What are we returning? Remember to always put your template literal and then your options. So your option value, we don't want this. This is the option element, option. Then this option Remember, this option will represent each of these var, let, and cons. That's what this option is representing. So we are now passing that option as this option here. That means when we map through the first quiz or the first quiz data, we get everything, and then we now get the array of options also. Then here we are now mapping through the array of options, the options of map also, to get each of the item inside that option. So now let's save it and see what we have. Right now we have our flex duration, and then column. So everything is still the same thing. So in that case, let's assume now that, okay, let's say this last one has another answer. Let's say function, for example. So if we save it now, automatically we just get an additional answer here, function, which will not disturb this one. This one will remain 3, this will remain 3, and then this will be 5 or 4. So that's how you can do it. So that means just map through anything that is there. I don't want to know the length of item that we have inside this option. I don't want to know, I don't care. So what I want you to do for me is just map through it and return anything that you have inside of it. Even if it is 6, anything that is there. If it is, let's say, lot, and then let's say another loop. So it will just keep mapping through it, and then it will keep displaying all of those things that we have there. So that's just how it's going to work. So that's why you cannot just use the one that we used earlier, right? The one that has to do with option 0, option 1, and option 3. So what if the option is about 100? We can't keep saying option is 0, 1, 2, 3 to 100. So this is what we are going to do, and then everything will be displayed immediately. Right? So now let's save it. So we've been able to display our question, our answers here, right? And then our what? Right? And then we have here to display the selected answer, the correct answer, and then the status. So before we move to selecting like this, who is not clear with what we are doing currently? Who is still confused, or who is not? Do you have any question about what we've done currently? If you have any question, please raise your hand. Abire, thank you. Just unmute yourself.
Okay, from what you just said now, does it follow that option that you did now that maps through all the options that you have, give it maybe it's 3 or 6 or what, that is the best practice?
Yes, that is just the best practice, because like I said, it's possible that the answers we have inside this place might be up to 100, right? And then if you share, okay, you say you want to keep repeating the options, and then you want to keep passing the index as the bracket notation. That means you have to keep repeating until you get to like 100, And then what if you have 1 million? What if you have 2 million of it? Can you like just keep doing that? Like that would be a lot of code, right? So instead of that, we just use the map. You just say quiz. This quiz represents each of the objects, option inside each quiz, which is each object, and then dot map. So we are now mapping through the array of options to get all of the items inside the options. Are we good? Abir, is that okay?
It's okay.
All right, she's not here. Okay, that means there's no other question. We are okay with what we have currently. That's interesting. Okay, now we want to move to selecting. When you select an answer, then you want to display your selection at this point. You want to display your selection at this point. So this is what we are, okay, this is what we are going to do. This is what we are going to do, right? For us to be able to get it's going to get really strong here. So for us to do that, you have to, this option has a value. So we have to pass this option as value also. So we say options, option. So now this is representing the value that we have. Remember, without this value, there's no way you can get the value of this option. Well, you can say .inner.html and all of that, but since it is an option, right, it is not good to use .inner.html in this place. So the best thing we can use is the value is provided is a default attribute. Is a default attribute that is attached that comes with your option. So instead of passing it as string, instead of using a string, just use what? Use your template literal, use this, your $sign, and then call your option inside of it. That means this is also our option. So for every time that I select this thing and I get the value of this option, I will be getting the text, the inner text of this option. I will explain that. Let's just see what we have for now. So now we've been able to display everything we need. What is left now is how to click to select one and how to click to select the other. So what do? There's something they call add event listener in JavaScript. Add event listener. You use add event listener to get use add event listener on a class or a normal element that does not really support on click. Not all elements support on click events. So in the situation where you want to click on something and it does not support an on click event, what do? You use your add event listener. You use your add event listener on that. So it is also the same thing. The only difference is when you are using on click, use it as a function on click, for example. So this is your on click, right? But then your event listener is always like, you have to select something. You can say select dot add event listener, something like this, right? Then you pass what do you want the event to listen to? Is it a change? Are you listening to a change? Are you listening to a click? Are you listening to submit? Are you listening to anything you are listening to? That's what you are going to pass inside this place. So, but then in our own case, we are going to be passing a change. Please, let's not get confused, please. So I will just find a way to break it down for us. So this is how an event listener looks like. This is how an event listener looks like. So basically, like I said, it is used on an element that you want to have an on-click event on top. But this particular element does not support an on-click event. On-click event is mostly on buttons. That's what you use on-click event for. When you have a button, you use an on-click event on it. But when you have an element that you want to click on, you use what? Add event listener on top. And this is how it is. So how do you do that? You have to select that element first. This selection means select the element that you want to click on. So when you select that element, you now add the event listener to it. Then you now pass what kind of event do you want to trigger? What type of event do you want to trigger? We have inputs, we have input type, we have change, we have click, we have submit. We have different type of input event that you can pass to an event listener. So, but in this our case, because we are working with what? A select. We're working with a select, and select has multiple values, multiple items inside it. So what do? We use change, because you can choose this one, and then you can now say, okay, no, I'm not choosing flex anymore. I want to change it to another thing. So you can change it to column. You can change it back to flex direction. You can change it back to flex, which means here we are going to pass what? Change. That means for every time I'm changing my choice, for every time I'm changing my options, then I should be listening to all the changes here. Every time I'm making a change inside my selection, that change to be listened to inside my block of code here. So that's what we are going to do. Now, let's remove this and remove this. And then everything, remember, is going to be inside our quiz app. So what am I trying to select? I want to be able to click on this select element. Then I will now pick any of this option. So that's it. So that means I'll have to target what? My select element, because this is select element, and that's what I want to click on. So I'll just target my select here. I can use the ID or I can use select. So let me just see, let's use the ID. For example, let's use select item, just for it. I can actually use the item, the select element itself, the tag name. But since we are used to class and ID, let's just use the ID. So everything has to be still inside my function. So I'll now say, let select be equals to document dot get element by ID. Remember, I want to select this select here. This is what I want to select. And I pass this ID, select item. So document dot get element by ID. Then I'll say what? Select item. So that's what I want to select. Yeah. So having done that, I will now say okay. I think there's something I'm not getting right there. Let me explain it again. In this our case, we are not having one select. Remember, our data is 3. We have first object, second object, and third object, which means that our select here, our select element here is not just 1. It is 3 also. So we have the first select, the second select, and the third select, which means if I should use document.get element by ID select item, it's going to select all the items at once. Like it's going to select everything at once, which it's not even going to select everything. It's going to select the last one. Yeah. This is going to select the last of the select. And I want this to select all of these things at once. I want it to select everything. So how do I do that? That's where query selector comes in. So instead of using this ID, I'll just use query selector, and then I'll select the select here. So I'll say I'm not using element ID anymore. I'll say query selector select is equals to document dot query selector all, query selector all. Then I'll now say I'm selecting what? Select. Question. I'm trying to take it slowly so we don't get confused. Let me pick it again. Let's start all over again. We have been able to display our data. What is left is we want to be able to select this item so that when we click on it, whatever we click on is going to be displayed here in our selected as answer. So how do we do that? And we already know that this is a select. This is a select element, and this last one is also a select element, right? So now this is what we do. Our select is inside the return statement here, our HTML syntax here, right? And we want to select it. So, and anything that is inside an array, that is more than 1 cannot be 1. It is going to be 3 because our data is what? 3. Definitely, our select is also going to be what? 3. Like you can see here, we have 1, 2, and 3. So in that case, we cannot use get element by ID for it. We cannot use get element by ID to select this thing like this. So what we can use to select it is what? We can use query selector, because query selector has a method that accepts all. We have query selector like this to select one item, and then we have query selector all to select all the select that you have inside this thing. That means select all the select element I have. That's the meaning of this one. So now after selecting this, we are going to say select dot for each. Select dot for each. For each is also more like a method, like map method. For each is also like a map method, which is used to map through an item and to work, to act on a given object at a given time. A given object at a given time. So this is how it's going to be. I would say select dot for each, right? So then I would say cell, then index, right? Just the same way that we are using our map. That's the same way we are using this one. Are we together? Sammy, just talk, please. Just, are we together?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't want to be too fast, so I just need us to be on the same page. All right. This is what I'm trying to do. After selecting our select, remember, like I said, our select has like theory of itself inside our data. Okay, so we cannot select one, we have to select all of it. So we use query selector all. So now what we want to do is that for every time, after selecting everything, for every time I click on one of it, I want something to happen. So we use map to display everything at once. We use map to display everything at once, and we are not acting on anyone at a particular time. While we use for each to display everything at once also, but at the same time, we can actually manipulate our for each to be able to act on each of these objects at a particular time. We can use for each to act on each of these objects at a given time. More like, now I use map to display everything, right? So I want to be able to. My screen is what? Hello, you say my screen is what?
The screen is okay, continue.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm not okay. What are we seeing currently on this on the screen? Are we seeing the code, the VS code, or we are seeing the Chrome? I want to know if this thing has not ended yet.
VS Code.
VS Code.
And the last part, line 54 to 61.
Okay. Forming. My screen has ended already. Trying to bring it back. Because currently I've been switching things and then I noticed that. Oh, God. Okay, can we see it now? Can you see my switch now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's better. All right, so we have select. This select is what we selected here. That's all the select elements. So select dot for each. So for every time, for each of these select, for each of it, remember, this select is an array. So we are saying for each. That means for each of these select, I want to be able to click on them. So select dot for each. And now I want to represent each of the select with what? A representative. We call it what? Cell. Right? We call it what? Cell. I can just say, let me just use select element here. Then we can have select element here. And then let's use select here. Okay, so this is it. Select elements is getting all of the select elements. While we are now saying select element dot for each. For each of these select elements, we are representing each of it with what? Select. Now, what I want to do exactly is, I want to be able to click on each of the select elements, which is this. For every time I click on this like this, I want to get something. For every time I click on the select like that, I want to get what? Something. So we say select. Remember, I've represented this select with what? With each of the select elements. So I say select dot add event listener. So for each of the select, select.add event listener. So what am I listening to? These are the things I can listen to. As you can see on my screen, a lot of it, I can listen to all of this like this. But what I want to listen to is what? A change. So for every time I'm making a change, so I will say change, right? Then put comma, and then your arrow function, yeah? So this is more like a callback function.
Your change.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you for that. So after you listen to this thing, so what do you want to happen after listening to a change? Then that brought about the callback function. So we now open this one like this. So select.add event listener. When I click on it, I want to listen to changes in each of it. So when I change like this, I want to listen to each of the changes. So now change. So what happened? What should happen after listening to this change? That is the callback function here. So now what do we do? For every change, I want to get incoming. I want to get, okay, now let's do it this way. Events. I'm coming. Let me try something. So let's select value be equals to event dot target dot value. Okay, let me explain something before we get to this one, before we get to this place. So for every input, we have select input, we have type input, we have all kind of input that we know. You guys already know inputs like type name, type card, type text, and all of that. So if you want to get the value of an input, you use event.target.value. So for us to get, for example, let's say I have an input, let's say const. I've been able to get my input. Let input be equals to document dot get element by ID, for example, get element by ID. So I'm getting an input. I can just say input. So, but because it's an input, the element is an input. I want to get the value of that input. What do? I would say function, even if I want to use function, let's say an on-click function, select me, then I'll pass what? Event here, right? So this event is going to represent everything you can get from that input. So you now say event.target.value. So that means when I'm targeting this event, I want to get what? The value of that event. That event, that's what I want to get. Are we together? Okay, let me come again. I have an input, right? And you know that for every input, you can make changes. Someone can just come to your website and then go to your input and then say, okay, or let's say a registration. So I'm typing my username, I'm saying simple soul, right? So if I want to listen to that change and I want to get the value of that particular input, what do? I'll just, after having my on-click event on that particular or on-change event on that particular input, I'll just say, I'll pass event here as a parameter. This only works for input. Event only work for input that you click on or that you make changes on or all of those things. It doesn't work on normal function. So event only works on input. So we now say that event will carry a target. That target means that particular thing that you are changing, that one that you are making changes on, or that particular one that you clicked on. That's the target. Event.target. So target this particular event and then give me the value of that event. Target that particular event and then give me the value of that event. Any question? My mind is just telling me that we are not getting this thing very correctly. Well, any question, please? I think we are okay. Are we good? Let's talk, please. Let's talk. I don't like the silence. Okay, I think there's a chat. Let's come back again. Let's come out. Let's start all over again. Let's start all over again. I think I'm taking us too far because I saw something now that okay, you said I should go over it again. I will do that because this silence means we are very, very lost. And I only have just 13 persons on the call. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, if I can get what you are saying about this event listener now. Let's say there's an input like my name.
Yes.
Okay. So this is supposed to now get the name exactly for me. Let's say I input Mercy. It's going to return Mercy.
Exactly. It's going to.
But since we are talking about yes, since we are talking about three, we have three selects now. So for each of them that there's going to be an input, it will be returning each
value
as you click on it.
Thank you. That is just as simple as it is. That is just basically everything I've been explaining. That's just it. That is just it. Okay. So here is the thing again. Let me come over it again. Okay, I have just 9 minutes. So we all understand to this point. We were able to get to this point, and then we remember that we have a select here. But the problem we are facing now is we want to be able to click on this select and achieve the value of that particular thing. So which means that when I click on flex direction, I want to achieve flex direction, like store it somewhere. When I click on VS Code, I want to achieve VS Code as my answer, right? And then remember, I cannot, if I select one select and I say flex, this flex is going to replace everything that I have here. But in this my case, I want each of my target or my selection to be targeted at one input at a time. It should be targeted at one input at a time. So which brought about us selecting we have to select the element first. And because the element is not one, so we selected, let's select element equals to all of it. Document.query selector, all select. Now since select element is returning what? An array. Remember, I'm selecting everything. So it's returning an array of all the select. So we are now saying select dot for each. So for each of these select elements, I want you to do something for me. For each of these select elements, do something for me. So for me to be able to act on it very well, I have to represent each of the select with a variable. We call it a parameter. So I say it is called what? Select. So forget about this index for now. I will use it later, but for now, it is select, right? Now, for each of these selects, I want to click on it and get the value. That's what I want to do. Every time I click on each of these select inputs, I want to get the value of the select. But because it is select, right? The value changes. The select bar, the value changes. So in this case, it changes when I change to flex direction. That means a change. When I change to column, that's a change. When I go back to flex, it's a change. So it's actually a changing value. It's not a constant value. So that's why we have to use select dot for add event listener. So what am I listening to? I'm listening to change in that event. I'm listening to what? Change in that event. But because we are not using a function here like this, we're not using a function. If you're using a function, you pass your event here. But in this our case, we are using what? An add event listener. That's what we are using. So, and the structure, the way it is being structured is, what do? You have your events inside this parentheses. Let me write that out again. You can say ft dot add event listener. Then you decide on what you are listening to. You can say click. let's say click, for example. Then after the click, right, you have this. You have this. You always have this parenthesis like this. It's constant. Then your arrow function, and you have this. So this is the structure of add event listener. So, but then if you want to get the value of what you are clicking, you have to pass what? An event. That event holds the target, and then the target holds the value. Let's try something. Let's see something. So we are going to pass event here. So if you say console.log event dot target dot value, you will now get the inner value instead of saying inner HTML. In this case, this is not an HTML because we are passing a value here. So what we need exactly is the value. We don't need the HTML. We need the value. Do you get? So that's why we are using dot value. So in this case, we say event dot target dot value. Focus on one part and then give me the value of that event. So that's what this thing is doing. So the same thing is applicable here when I say I pass event in this case. So this event will now give me the event of the change or the particular select item or element that I'm clicking on. Let's try something. Console.log select event. Let's select value. Let's see what we have. Now let's save it and then go back to our code. Coming. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I'm going to inspect. Right, now let's go to console. So for every time I change my selection here, I'm getting what? Flex direction. For every time I change my selection here, I get the new value. So I have the first one is what? Flex direction. The second one is what? The flex. If I change it again, I'll get column. This thing is not like concatenating it. It's not like adding it. It's replacing it. The first one I selected was flex direction. The second one is now what? Column. The third one is what? Flex. And the third one is what? Column. So that is what this thing is doing. If I should do like this, console.log event, let's see what this will return. It's going to return a lot of things that we can actually do. So let's click on this and select flex. So this is an event. That means the event of that particular element that you are clicking on. If I should open it now, I will get, see, I have event.isTrusted, event.bubbles, .cancel bubble. There are a lot of stuff you can do. Prevent default, event face, and all of that. But what we need exactly in our own case is what? Our target, which is this. So you can see the type of that event is what? Change. So what we need is what? Our target. So inside the target now, we have how many options? We have 3 options. We have option 1, option 2, and option 3. Do you understand? So we can now get the value of that target. Let's see it now. Let's go to value. Where is it? The target dot value. I saw value just now. I saw value just now. Event or target of value. Let's open this option. Maybe we'll get the value here. I can't find the value. That's flex there. Okay. This is inner text. I need the value. I guess I'm missing something actually, but then that is basically it. Event.target.value. I expect to see value somewhere. I'm thinking that value is wrapped in between this one. There's supposed to be more item here. Okay. Yeah, this is it. Value. Flex. So I was able to get event dot target. As you can see, the event contains a lot of things, and then I have my targets. Then inside the target, I have what? The value. So now that's that. But in my case here, I don't need event entirely. I need just what? The value dot target dot value. All right. Kindly use click. Let me see if it's displayed the last option clicked on. So please go over it again. Okay. I think you've been answered. Thank you very much, Itek, for that. All right, so that is what we are doing here. So for every time you are clicking, you are getting different value. But I think we have only been clicking the first one. Let's see if we can click the other ones also. So let's select the first one, select the first select, then go to the other one, select this one, you get git, go to this one, select this one, you get const. So that's how it is. So now what do we want to do now? We want to display our answer. What we want to display it here. So let's just get this one. Since this is our selected answer paragraph, we want to display everything we are getting. We want to display it inside selected answer. So let's just give it a class and then call it, let's say, selected answer, right? Or let's just say selected. So now let's say I want to get this selected answer directly and then pass, but then there's something again that will be confusing, but I will explain it to us. Remember, like I said, everything inside an array is what? Is multiple, is the number of that array. Now, currently, this our P is going to be like 3. So, but then for every time I select this first one, I want that answer to display here, not in everything. I want this answer to display for only the first one. So how do I do that? I will just select this one and then pass. Okay, let's try it first. Let's say here, instead of console.log, I'll say document dot get elements dot query selector all. Remember, we use all for all the select because it is more than one. So the same thing, we are going to be using all for our selected because it is more than what? Because it is more than one. So let's do that. Just a minute. So what am I passing exactly? What am I passing? Can someone tell me what I'm passing?
Selected.
Selected. Thank you very much. So now, like I said, this, I don't want to store this, or I don't want to save this inside any variable. So I can just call it directly, document.query selector all, right? Like this. That's what I want to do. I don't want to say let something be this and then let this and all of that. So now this is returning what? This is returning all of the selected. This is going to return 3P. Remember, it's going to return 3P. But what I need is just the first one. Not even the first one. The one that I am clicking on. The one that I'm clicking on is the one I need at that particular point. Which means if I should click on this, I want to get the paragraph, the selected of the one I clicked on at that particular time. That's what I want to get. And remember, we have an index. For us to be able to get that, because this one is returning an array. And the array is what? Is 0, 1, 2, because it's 3. So for me to get the one that I'm clicking on at that particular point, I have to use this index here. This index inside my for each. That index is also the same thing as the index of this one. So I will now call, I'll just my my bracket notation and then pass index here. So if this index is equal to 0, then my selected item here, this number line 961 will be what? The paragraph of index is 0. That will be the first one. So if this index now changes, if I click on this one, that means the index is what? 1. That means this P that is selected will also be what? 1. So if I click on the last one, which is 2, that means this P that is selected will now be what? 2. So here is going to be changing from 0, 1, and 2. So I will now say, after selecting it, and I've gotten the index, the one that I want, I will now say dot inner HTML or text content or anything will now be equals to what? Selected value. Save. And then let's see what we have. Let's see. I just hope this will work. All right, so let's select an answer, flex direction. Okay, so we have our flex direction here. But in this case, our flex direction is replacing selected answer. We don't want to replace selected answer. We want you to add to it. So we can just do it this way. Instead of passing selected value directly, you can just say, remove this and pass your template literal and say selected answer, add this, and then this, right? And then put your selected value. So this is more like a string. So we want to replace everything like this with, we want to replace everything we have here, selected answer, with what we have here. Remember, this is the string, and this selected value should be the value that we are getting from our target. Now let's save it and see what we have now. So if I should say, I'm selecting what? Flex, then I'll have flex here. If I should say, I'm selecting git, I'll have git here. If I say, I'm selecting function, I'll have function here. Let's make it bigger. Let's refresh that. And then let's go back again for the last time, and I'll end the call. So you guys can now go and find a way to figure out how to work the corrected answer and the status. So yeah, this is it again. I've been able to pick each of the select items or select elements, and I'll say for each of them, I represent each of the selected item or select elements with a select parameter. And I'll say, okay, for every time I'm clicking on this select, listen to the change event. And then from the event, I want to get the target of value, which represents everything we are clicking, everything we have inside our value. This value will not work if you do not pass this value option here. Remember, this option is what we are clicking on. And then this is the value of the option. That's why the value is working. And we pass the option as the option here also. So that's why we are getting the value. So if you do not pass that value there, this will not work. So we say, let's selected value, select value because event or target or value. So after getting that, we now want to put this thing that we get inside our what? Our selected answer paragraph. But because this is inside an array, right? We are going to say document.query selector all. Then all, what are you picking? All selected. Query selector all dot selected. Then we are getting the index. We don't want to just get everything like that. We want to get the index of the one that we are clicking on at that particular time. So that's why we have to add index. Remember, like I said, index represents the index. That's the number of an object. The position of an object is the index. That's 0, 1, and 2. So for every time I'm selecting an item and I want you to pick the paragraph where I'm going to put the item, don't just put it in all of the paragraph. Put it in the paragraph that has an index of this index, 0 or index of 1 or index of 2. This is more like an array. This will return an array, and then index will now pick the one that is going to pick inside of it, right? But then I don't want to repeat myself. I don't want to have a long code. So I just say, after getting that index, dot inner HTML of that index will now be equals to what? This string. I can at the same time do it this way. Let's picked, right, be equals to this. Then I will now say picked dot, I can now say picked dot inner HTML. This pick one, this picked also is selected this thing first. Then I can now say picked dot inner HTML is equals to selected item or answer. Then the selected value will now be replaced as this one. So now let's save it. We still have the same thing. So select the first question, flex direction, you get it there. Then select the second, VS Code, you get it here. Then this one, let const, you get it here. That's very simple, as in straightforward. Now let's get the last one. Okay, I think I will just going to eat like 5 minutes of their time. So correct answer. I want to compare that if the answer that I have here, okay, I want to display the correct answer. So which is what? The correct answer is what? Answer, yeah. It is inside my what? Quiz array data. It's inside my quiz, sorry, yeah, quiz data. That's where I have my correct answer. So I want to display it also. And then what do? I want to display it inside the correct answer. So I will get that one also. Class will now be equals to, let me just give it correct, right? Then I can come down and say, after picking, still inside the event, though, inside everything that I'm clicking, that particular one, that's what I'm still doing it inside. So when I click like this, I want to make my inner HTML of this guy be equals to the answer here. For every time I click, I don't want it to happen before clicking. I want it to happen only when I click, or sorry, only when I select an answer. That's what I want to happen. So I will now say document dot query selector all again at the same time. So all, what am I selecting? All corrected, sorry. Then I'll pick the index at the same time also, because I don't want it to just be for everything. So I'll pick index 2. I will now say dot inner HTML will now be equals to, or let's say, let corrected, so we don't get confused, be equals to, let correct be equals to this. And then let's stop at this. And then we say correct dot inner HTML will now be equals to, what are we going to show here? We want to show our quiz data. We want to show the answer of our quiz data. Remember, we want to show the answer of our quiz data. If I should say quiz data, if I should say quiz data dot answer, I won't be able to get it, because quiz data is what? Is an array. So I have to get the index of this one that I clicked. Everything is still wrapping around this index, because I'm working on a particular index at a time. I'm working on a particular number at a time. So everything is still around this index. So since my quiz data is an array, I will just say quiz data, then pass the bracket notation and put the index to get the index. If this is 3, it will get the last, sorry, if it is 2, it will get this one. If it is 1, it will get this one. If it is 0, it will get this one. So now I'm getting the index. I'll now say dot answer. So now let's save it. But then I don't want to replace what we have there initially. So I'll pass my template to you. I'll say correct answer. Correct answer will now be equals to this, right? And then I'll pass this. Then save it and see what we have now. So we say select answer, we have our flex direction. So flex, that means this is wrong. So this one now will be get up. This is also wrong. So this one will now be what? Const. Oh, this is right. As you can see, the correct answer is not showing until I click. That's happening because I have it inside my what? Add event listener. So that means every time I make a change, that's when I want this thing to change also. This is like flex direction. So now let's do the last one, which is the status. You want to show if it is correct or wrong. So you say if this is equals to this, then this should happen. If this is equals to this, then this should happen. That would be a little bit complicated, but I would like let's just do it. I'll say if I explained if statement a couple of times. So I'll say if my quiz data answer, is equal to, remember the strict equality is equal to what? Selected value. Select value. That means if this answer is equal to what was selected, then I will now get this one also, the status, right? Class equals to status document dot query selector all, right? Document dot query selector all. Then what am I picking? I'm picking dot status, right? Remember the index again. Index dot inner HTML will now be equals to, I want to make it correct, or I can say status, just pass status here. Status will now be equals to Else, if this is wrong, else can copy this again and say this should be what? Wrong. Else, if that thing is not the same thing as this, then make it wrong. Which means if this answer here is the same thing as what we selected, that means if a user select const here and the same thing as this one, then change this status to be what? To be status correct. Else change it to be what? Status wrong. Now let's save it and see what we have. Let's start with this flex direction. Okay, flex, that means we have our status as what? Correct. So if this is what? Git, and then we selected GitHub, it's going to be what? Wrong. The last one is what? The last one is const. Let's assume we select var. It's going to change to what? Wrong. So this one that is wrong before, let's say, okay, I want to change my option, go to Git, then I will get what? Correct. It's very easy. So for the wrong one, you say, okay, this is the selected answer. This is the correct answer. And then what is the status? It is wrong. Select answer Git, correct answer Git, status what? Correct. So that's it. As you can see now, we have our quiz app. What is left is just to have the total of, okay, when I click on this, this is this. When I click on this, this is this. And we can do that too by just doing this. I want to have my total. So for every time I select, let's just say const here. Let's put our const here. Const, no. Or let's just do it const. No, let's score be equals to, let point be equals to 50, and then let's correct be equals to 50, sorry. Let's wrong be equals to 0. If you correct, you get 50. If you're wrong, you get 0. Then let's result be equals to what? 0, because for now we don't have any result for now. So we now say for every time I select a good answer, which is inside this place, this is a good answer, right? I want to add to my result. Result plus or equals to what? Correct. And then, no, let me change the correct. So correct, add S. Because I have one correct, so it's going to cause trouble. So I'll just say correct. And then for every time I get it wrong, I'll say result plus or equals to what? Wrong. Right, now let's save it and then see what we have. I will now say, yeah, I want to display it at the bottom. Okay, I can't do the display. You guys can find a way to do the display later. You can just display it somewhere at the bottom here. But I don't really have that much time again. Or let me just do it sharp. These people wants to kill me. So let me put P here. I'll say class equals to res result. Save it. I can now say inside this place, I will say document dot query selector. I want to get the result dot html dot inner html will now be equals to what? Result. So the same thing, yeah. I'll do the same thing here. Result. So let's save it and then let's see what we have now. We have flex. So yeah, I have 50. That's I get the first point. If I select again, let's say GitHub, then it's still 50. I did not get the answer. Then the last one, let's say const, should be 100 because I get the answer. So I can just say this can give me a string like this. I'll say result divided by 150, since our question is 150, right? So I'll just say point multiply, okay, just 150. You guys can figure out how to do this later, but I need to go now. So the same thing here. I will not be taking questions. We'll just attend to questions. I'm expecting that we can schedule a class for tonight, so we can talk about this again. So the first one is wrong. So I have is 0 by 150. The second one is right. Okay, it's still wrong. It's 0 by 150. And let's select a right question. We have 50 over 150. So this is the final result. If I go back and choose Git, I get 100. So that's it. So I will not be able to take questions. Thank you very much. Let's begin this night series so I can just explain one on one stuff. At the same time, same venue, and have a wonderful day.